It began with a whisper in a dusty outpost on the edge of the galaxy. A trader, pale and sweating, stumbled into the cantina and swore he had seen something out beyond the rim. He spoke of a shape so big it blocked the stars, moving slow, steady, like a predator that didn't need to rush. No one believed him at first. In places like this, wild stories bought you a drink or two. But then another pilot came in with the same story. Then another. Soon, it wasn't just rumor, it was the only thing anyone talked about. In mining stations orbiting barren moons, mechanics shut off their drills to listen to news feeds. The reports were all the same. An unknown warship, bigger than anything recorded in modern history, had entered neutral space. Freight haulers claimed it was longer than a city, bristling with weapons whose shapes no one recognized. Its hull didn't shine under the light of the stars. It seemed to swallow the light, like a shadow carved into space itself. Merchants traveling between systems brought their own stories. One said it passed within a 1,000 kilometers of his cargo ship, and not a single scan penetrated its armor. Another swore the vessel's engines made no sound over comm channels, as if it glided without disturbing the void. Every detail made the mystery worse, and every telling made the fear grow. On the trading moon of Vashtar, an old smuggler claimed he had once seen human ships before. He told the crowd how, long ago, humans fought a war against 3 powerful species at once, and won. His voice trembled when he said the new ship's design matched the old records too closely to be a coincidence. He warned them in a hushed tone, "If this is what I think it is, the galaxy's in trouble." In the capital cities of distant worlds, news screens flickered with shaky, long-distance images. Most showed only a black silhouette against the stars, but the size was enough to make military analysts nervous. The Galactic Council issued no official statement, but leaked chatter from their secure channels spoke of emergency meetings and quiet orders to stand down fleets. No one wanted to provoke whatever this was. On the waterworld of Terran 4, a young dock worker watched the ship's grainy outline on a screen and asked his father why everyone seemed so afraid. The old man's face darkened. "Because some predators don't roar before they strike," he said. As the days passed, sightings increased. The mysterious ship didn't linger. It moved through system after system, slow but unstoppable. Smaller vessels adjusted their courses without being told. Pirate bands vanished from the sectors it passed through, either fleeing or hiding deep in asteroid belts. Even those who had never seen war felt the air change, like the stillness before a storm. Then, in a crowded relay station, a damaged probe limped back from a patrol route near the unknown ship. The station's techs worked frantically to retrieve its logs, and when the data finally played, there was a single clear recording, one word, spoken in a human voice. Earth! The sound spread faster than light itself. People replayed it again and again, as if trying to convince themselves it was real. Merchants who had traveled to Earth centuries ago in the rare days of open trade now remembered the quiet confidence of the humans, their unmatched engineering, and the stories of their soldiers. Scholars dug up dusty archives about human history. Wars fought not for territory, but for survival, and won through stubbornness that other species couldn't match. Generals began speaking in low, urgent tones, recalling tactical reports of human fleets turning the tide in hopeless battles. In the cramped metal corridors of space stations, people whispered to one another in fear and wonder. A mechanic passing through an orbital market muttered, "If the humans have come back with a ship like that, the Council better tread lightly." His companion asked what he meant. The mechanic only said, "They don't build things to show off. They build them to win." Every new fragment of information painted a more dangerous picture. Some claimed the ship was alone, others believed it was just a scout for a larger fleet waiting beyond sensor range. No matter the theory, one truth became clear to everyone. The galaxy had not seen humans in force for a very long time, and their return was not going unnoticed. By the 3rd week, the rumors had traveled from the deepest mining colonies to the glittering spires of the inner worlds. The words Earth's battleship were spoken in the same breath as fear, power, and war. And still, the massive vessel moved forward, never rushing, never speaking, as if it knew the galaxy could do nothing but watch. The Galactic Council chamber was never quiet, but that day the air inside felt heavy, like the whole room was holding its breath. Representatives from every major species filled the long, curved rows. They had been called in with no warning, and the message had been marked urgent, highest possible priority. Some wore ceremonial robes, others full military armor, but all had the same look in their eyes: worry. The central hollow screen showed a grainy, looping image of the black battleship. Even in low resolution, the scale was terrifying. The warship drifted slowly in space, its shadow swallowing nearby patrol ships like they were insects. No one spoke for several seconds. Then the voices started to rise. One alien with pale green skin slammed his hand on the desk and demanded they send the fleet immediately. "It's a threat," he shouted. "Do you not see it? We must destroy it before it comes closer." His words echoed, but many shook their heads. A bird-like delegate with feathers bristling snapped back. "And what if it destroys us instead? You saw the scans. No weapon we have could pierce that armor. We'd be sending our ships to their death." On the far side, an elderly representative of the Vranic species, with translucent skin stretched over sharp bones, leaned forward. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise. "It's human," he said, "and humans do not come without reason. If they have sent that ship, something far greater is at play." The chamber stilled. A general from the Zoran fleet stood, his heavy armor clanking. He recited a classified report from 2 centuries ago, an account of a battle where human ships fought against 3 entire armadas. The humans had been outnumbered and outgunned, but they won by turning the enemy fleets against each other, using tactics so unpredictable that the alien commanders never recovered. "They fight with their minds as much as their weapons," the general warned. "We must tread carefully." The leader of the council, a tall, silver-skinned being named Thelen, asked for the most recent intelligence. A holographic map appeared, showing the battleship's slow but direct route toward the capital system. Every system it passed through had cleared its trade lanes without being told. Not a single ship had dared block its path. The council members exchanged nervous glances. This wasn't just power, it was influence without firing a single shot. A representative from the Merchant Guild argued that maybe the humans had come to trade. Others laughed bitterly. "That is no merchant ship," one scoffed. "That's a warship, and warships speak only one language." An insectoid envoy from the Trixa colonies proposed opening communication immediately. "If we greet them, perhaps we can avoid conflict." But another delegate hissed in anger, warning that opening a channel might expose their weaknesses. They had no idea what technology humans had now. What if even a simple signal allowed them to scan the entire capital? The chamber split into factions, those who wanted to hide, those who wanted to fight, and those who wanted to negotiate. The noise became a storm of voices. Threats were thrown. Old grudges between species reignited in seconds. Then, an unexpected sound cut through the chaos. It was a recording, played by one of the council aides, the single word captured by the damaged probe: Earth. The voice was calm, deep, and human. The room went silent. For a moment, no one moved. The sound was like a ghost from history. Every species had stories, some of respect, some of fear, about Earth and its people. Many in the chamber had never seen a human in their lifetime, but they had heard enough to know that this was not an opponent you provoked lightly. An old war historian rose slowly from his seat. His people had once fought alongside humans against a common enemy. He told the chamber that humans rarely fought wars of conquest. But when they did fight, they fought to the end. They didn't retreat, and they didn't surrender. "If they are coming here," he said, "then it is because they believe something is worth the risk. We must find out what that is." The council leader called for a vote on how to proceed. The options were clear: assemble a fleet to intercept, hide the capital behind defensive shields, and hope the humans passed by, or send a diplomatic envoy. None of the choices felt safe. In the end, they agreed on a fragile compromise. The capital's fleets would remain on high alert, but no aggressive moves would be made unless the humans fired first. At the same time, discreet attempts would be made to open a communication channel. As the meeting ended, the delegates filed out in silence. In the long hallways outside the chamber, whispers began again. Some said the humans were here for revenge. Others thought they were bringing news of a greater threat. A few feared they were here to claim leadership over the entire galaxy. Far above the planet, Defense platforms turned their guns toward the dark stretch of space where the battleship would soon appear. Even with all their weapons primed, the gunners felt a knot of fear in their stomachs. For all the council's speeches, no one truly believed they could stop the humans if it came to a fight. By the time the sun dipped behind the planet's horizon, the battleship had already crossed into the outer border of the capital system. It moved without haste, without fear, like a predator that knew nothing could touch it. And in the hearts of the galaxy's leaders, one question burned hotter than all the rest. What did Earth want? The patrol ships had been tracking the black silhouette for hours, their sensors struggling to make sense of what they were seeing. Every pass of the scanners returned incomplete data, as if the ship itself bent the readings away. From a distance, it looked like a floating wall of darkness, blotting out the stars behind it. Even the faint glow of nearby nebulae seemed to vanish around its edges. The crew of the lead patrol ship watched in silence, each officer feeling the same unspoken truth. This was not just another warship. When the image finally came through the long-range cameras, the bridge went silent. It was a massive vessel, longer than any alien dreadnought, and its design was unlike anything in the galaxy. The hull was smooth in some places, jagged in others, as if it had been built for both elegance and intimidation. Dozens of weapon mounts jutted out in precise lines, their shapes unfamiliar. The hull was pure black, but not the kind that reflected nothing. It seemed to drink in the surrounding light, making it appear like a hole in space. The patrol captain tried to hail it, sending standard greeting protocols in 3 different languages. No reply came. Instead, the battleship continued on its path, slow and steady, its enormous engines pulsing with an eerie blue glow. The strange thing was, there was no sound over the comms, no static from the engines. Nothing. It was moving like a predator that didn't need to announce itself. The smaller escort ships shadowing the battleship looked alien as well, their designs strange and sharp-edged. They flew in perfect formation, never breaking rank, like they were an extension of the larger vessel. The patrol ships kept their distance. No one wanted to be the first to provoke it. The images captured by the patrol fleet were sent directly to the Galactic Council's intelligence network, and within hours, every world in the core systems had seen them. On civilian channels, the reaction was instant. People stopped what they were doing just to watch the live feeds. Even children fell silent as the sleek monster of a ship glided across their screens. Merchants halted trade convoys mid-route, redirecting to safer systems. On mining colonies, workers whispered to each other that this was the kind of ship that ended wars before they began. Pirates, always quick to sense danger, disappeared from entire sectors overnight. From space stations to planetary capitals, the same question was repeated. Why was it here? No one could believe it was coincidence. Ships that large did not wander. They had purpose. And the fact that it was moving without haste, without hiding, meant it had no fear of being stopped. Military analysts tried to guess its capabilities. Some claimed the armor was layered with a material that could absorb energy weapons. Others thought the large gaps between visible weapon ports hid even deadlier systems. Gravity weapons, planet crackers, or something worse. The problem was, no one had seen anything like it before. Even the oldest records had nothing that matched exactly. One pirate lord, speaking anonymously on an underground channel, admitted that his scouts had followed the ship for 2 days before vanishing from comms without a trace. Whether they were destroyed or simply erased, no one knew. The few who had seen the ship up close spoke of a strange sensation, like the air inside their own ship grew heavier, like something was watching them through the void. Then came the chilling detail, the battleship's trajectory. It was heading directly toward the galactic capital. The course was straight, unchanging, like a spear thrown across the stars. It did not stop to scan planets or respond to escorts. Every ship in its way simply moved aside, unchallenged. Civilian news networks replayed the footage endlessly. In every clip, the same haunting image appeared, the black ship filling the screen, dwarfing anything near it. Analysts debated endlessly on whether it was a single vessel or the vanguard of a hidden fleet. But no matter how they argued, the result was the same. Fear spread faster than light. In one outer colony bar, an old freighter pilot swore he had seen that design before, on a classified human blueprint decades old. No one wanted to believe him, but when he described the strange energy signature, other veterans went quiet. Some left their drinks unfinished and walked out without another word. By the time the battleship entered the last unclaimed sector before the capital's territory, it had become a symbol. To some, it was a sign of doom. To others, it was a reminder of an old name whispered in respect and dread: Earth. Still, the ship made no attempt to speak, no attempt to explain itself. It simply kept moving forward, slow, deliberate, unstoppable. The battleship moved like a shadow sliding across the stars. It didn't rush, didn't weave, didn't take the safe routes that other vessels used. Its path cut straight through trade lanes, right through sectors crowded with ships, as if every other craft in space was nothing more than drifting dust. Smaller vessels noticed it on their sensors long before they saw it with their eyes. And when they realized how close it was, they simply changed course without orders. No one wanted to be near it. Every system it passed through went quiet. Merchant convoys stopped transmitting their usual chatter. Civilian ships went dark, running without lights to avoid notice. Even pirate raiders, known for attacking anything that moved, pulled their fleets back into asteroid fields and abandoned ambush points. The battleship didn't need to fire a single shot. Its silence and presence alone emptied entire sectors. On military outposts along its route, defense fleets scrambled to meet it. They formed tight formations, weapons charged, ready to act if it turned hostile. But every time the human ship approached, it didn't change course or speed. It simply glided past, its massive hull casting shadows over ships that, up close, looked no larger than insects. The alien captains watching from their bridges felt the same cold realization. If this thing wanted them destroyed, they wouldn't even have time to issue an order. Inside the capital's security network, live feeds tracked its journey like a slow-moving storm. Intelligence officers marked each checkpoint it passed, measuring the time it would take to arrive. Their reports grew shorter with each update, as there was nothing more to analyze. No signs of communication, no scans, no changes in formation. Just a silent, steady advance. In crowded space stations, people gathered around public holoscreens, watching the black shape crawl across the galaxy map. The closer it got, the more silent the crowds became. Parents pulled their children away from the screens, afraid of the questions they couldn't answer. Old veterans who had fought in the human wars stared without blinking, their hands tightening around cups or canes. Some brave or foolish ships tried to tail it at a distance. They wanted to see if there was more, other ships hidden behind, perhaps an entire fleet. But the moment they crossed an invisible line, the battleship's escorts shifted. The small, alien-looking fighters moved in perfect unison, drifting into position like a school of predators surrounding prey. The trailing ships backed off immediately, and the formation returned to its silent guard. The strange thing was how disciplined the ship's progress seemed. It didn't take shortcuts. It didn't detour around hazards. Even dangerous debris fields that most captains avoided were simply swallowed by the battleship's forward shields, the wreckage scattering harmlessly in its wake. This was not a journey of exploration. It was a march. In the border system of Xiron, the station commander decided to test it. He ordered a line of heavily armed destroyers to block its path. For a brief tense moment, the great ship slowed, as if considering the challenge. The crews of the destroyers held their breath. Then, without a single shot fired, the battleship's side panels shifted, revealing weapons the size of city towers. Energy built within them, a dim glow that promised destruction. The destroyer captains didn't need further warning. One by one, they powered down their weapons and moved aside. The great ship passed without firing, its engines humming softly in the void. Civilian broadcasts replayed that footage endlessly, the image of entire fleets giving way without a fight. To some, it was humiliating. To others, it was proof of wisdom. You didn't pick a fight you couldn't win, and no one looking at that ship thought victory was possible. Along the capital's outer defense ring, preparations began. Orbital weapons platforms came online. Shield grids were reinforced. Pilots sat in their fighters for hours, strapped in and ready, even though no order to engage had been given. Every soldier knew the truth. If this battleship chose to attack, All their weapons together might not be enough to slow it down. The humans still hadn't sent a signal. They hadn't hailed anyone, hadn't demanded surrender, hadn't even acknowledged the fleets shadowing them. The lack of communication made it worse. If they had declared their intentions, at least the galaxy would know what was coming. But the silence left everyone guessing, and imagination was often crueler than truth. By the time the ship crossed into the final stretch toward the capital system, the galaxy was holding its breath. Trade routes were nearly empty. Smugglers refused to work. Civilian transports delayed departures until it was over. Even criminal syndicates declared a temporary truce, unwilling to draw any attention from the dark giant cutting through space. It moved with the certainty of something unstoppable, a force that didn't care about the noise it caused, a shadow that every living thing in its path instinctively made room for. And with every passing hour, the capital grew closer, and so did the moment when someone would have to face whatever stepped off that ship. The black battleship stopped just beyond the edge of the capital system. It hung in the darkness like a sleeping giant, silent and unmoving. Around it, the escorts floated in perfect formation, their positions precise as if drawn on a map. Every defense platform in the system turned toward it. Thousands of weapons locked on, targeting systems humming, but no one dared to fire. The tension was a living thing, pressing down on every soldier, every officer, every citizen watching from the safety of their homes. Hours passed with nothing. No movement, no sound. Then, without warning, the battleship's comm systems came alive. Across every channel, from military frequencies to public news networks, a single voice spoke. It was deep, steady, and unmistakably human. "We are here to talk. Refuse, and we leave forever." The message was short, almost casual, but it carried a weight no one could ignore. On the bridge of the capital's defense command, officers exchanged glances. The threat wasn't in what was said, it was in what was left unsaid. If they left, they might never come back, or worse, they might return for a reason no one wanted. The council chamber was thrown into chaos. Some argue this was a chance for peace, an opportunity to understand what the humans wanted. Others warned it could be a trap, a lure to lower defenses. But all of them knew one thing: ignoring the humans was not an option. Back in the system's control stations, communications officers replayed the message over and over. There was no static, no background noise, just a perfect, clean transmission as if the voice was speaking directly into their ears. Linguists confirmed it was flawless galactic common, with no accent or distortion. That alone was unsettling. It meant they had mastered the language entirely. Military leaders argued over the meaning of the humans' words. Was "leave forever" a promise or a warning? Some thought it meant the humans would walk away, never to return. Others believed it was a threat, that the next time they came, it wouldn't be to talk. On the civilian channels, speculation ran wild. Some believed the humans had returned to claim territory they once controlled. Others thought they had come to unite the galaxy under their banner. A few dared to hope they were here to protect them from some greater threat. But in every conversation, fear lingered just beneath the surface. In the capital's defense fleet, captains received strict orders: maintain formation, keep weapons charged, but do not fire unless directly attacked. This order spread through the ranks like ice water. Every pilot, every gunner knew the meaning. If the humans decided to open fire, there would be no winning, only survival. On the observation decks of orbital stations, civilians pressed against reinforced glass, staring at the black speck in the distance that was the human battleship. Even from far away, it seemed impossibly large, almost unreal. Children asked why it didn't move closer. Parents had no answer. The council finally decided to send a reply. A diplomatic envoy ship, small and unarmed, would approach under white flags. The chosen ambassador was a seasoned negotiator, a tall, four-eyed alien named Rethan, known for his calm under pressure. When he boarded the envoy ship, the corridors were lined with silent soldiers, some offering quick salutes, others simply watching him go. Everyone knew he might not return. As the envoy crossed the space between them and the battleship, no one spoke. In command centers, officers leaned over consoles. In living rooms across the planet, families sat frozen before holoscreens. The envoy ship stopped a safe distance from the massive vessel, its tiny frame looking like a grain of sand next to a mountain. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a low vibration rolled through the void. Panels along the battleship's hull shifted, revealing docking ports that glowed faintly. A light blinked from one of them, an invitation. The Envoy's crew hesitated, but Rethan ordered them forward. The docking process was flawless. The moment the seals locked, the comm channels went dead, cutting off all external contact. No one knew what was being said inside. Minutes stretched into an hour, and still there was no word. Speculation grew. Was the ambassador negotiating? Was he even alive? Defense fleets tightened formation. Fighter squadrons floated just outside weapons range, their pilots gripping their controls with white-knuckled hands. The battleship remained still, its escorts hovering like watchful predators. Finally, the envoy detached. It drifted back toward the capital's orbit, moving slower than before. As soon as it was within range, communication lines opened again. Rethan's voice came through, steady but quiet. "They wish to speak to the council directly," he said, "and they are coming." In the background, faint metallic footsteps could be heard echoing through the envoy's hull. The humans were already on board. The council chamber was already tense when the great doors slid open. Every representative turned their eyes toward the entry, expecting a heavily armed escort or a squad of guards. Instead, only 3 figures walked in. They were tall, their movements precise, each step steady as if the whole galaxy were watching. The humans wore armor that shone faintly under the chamber lights, but it wasn't the polished, ceremonial kind. It was built for survival, marked with subtle scratches and patterns that suggested real battles. They carried no visible weapons, yet every person in the room felt as though they were armed. There was something about the way they moved, the way their eyes scanned the chamber, that made it clear they didn't need blades or blasters to be dangerous. Their leader, a man with short black hair and calm, sharp eyes, carried a single sealed case in one hand. The sound of their footsteps echoed against the high walls, and not a single voice dared interrupt. Even the usual murmuring between representatives stopped. The humans reached the center of the chamber and stopped. The leader set the case on the circular table in the middle, pressing a small panel on its side. The lid hissed open, revealing a glowing blue crystal about the size of a clenched fist. Without a word, the man touched the crystal, and a hologram filled the space above the table. It wasn't a single image, it was a sequence, a flood of scenes pulled from recorded history. Massive alien fleets clashing in space, entire planets on the brink of destruction, armies locked in battles that seemed hopeless, and in each one, human ships and soldiers appeared, turning the tide, driving back forces far larger than their own, saving worlds that weren't even theirs. The images shifted. They showed humans fighting side by side with alien allies, building defenses, evacuating civilians, delivering supplies to starving colonies. Then, more somberly, they showed memorials, rows of names carved into stone, human and alien alike, lives lost in those battles. When the projection faded, the man finally spoke. His voice was calm, deep, and controlled. "We are not here to conquer. We are not here to take what is yours, but we will not stand aside while the galaxy tears itself apart." His eyes moved slowly across the chamber, meeting the gaze of every representative who dared look back. "Peace is not a gift, it is a responsibility, and we are here to make sure you remember that." Some representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others sat rigid, watching him with narrowed eyes. The council leader, Thelen, leaned forward. "And if we refuse your guidance?" he asked carefully. The human's answer was simple. "Then we leave, and when your wars destroy you, don't call for us." The words weren't shouted, but the weight behind them was heavy enough to silence the room. One delegate, a broad-shouldered warrior from the core species, stood abruptly. "You speak as if you are the galaxy's masters. Show us why we should listen to you." There was a sharpness in his tone, a challenge. The human leader turned his head slightly, studying the core warrior for a moment. Then he gave a faint, cold smile. "We did not come to prove ourselves, but if proof is what you want, we will give it." The humans closed the case, and the leader stepped back. The moment he moved, the 2 others with him shifted slightly, not in a threatening way, but enough to make every guard in the room tense. Their discipline, their precision was unsettling. They seemed to know exactly where every person in the chamber was, and how to act if things went wrong. Thalen spoke again, trying to regain control. If your goal is peace, then you will understand that threats will not achieve it. The human met his gaze without blinking. It is not a threat, it is a reminder. Peace has a cost. We have paid it before. We are ready to pay it again. The words hung in the air, heavy and unshakable. For a long moment, no one spoke. The representatives were caught between pride and caution, torn between wanting to reject the humans outright and fearing what that rejection might bring. Finally, the human leader stepped forward once more, his voice quieter now, but no less firm. You have a choice. Take it seriously, because we will. Without waiting for permission, the humans turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving the sealed case behind. It remained on the table, glowing softly, as if the crystal inside was still watching everyone in the room. The great doors closed behind them with a deep, echoing thud. The council sat frozen, each representative turning over the words they had just heard. None of them would admit it, but the humans had brought more than a message. They had brought a presence, a weight that stayed even after they were gone. The challenge came from the Ralvec Dominion, one of the most powerful military factions in the galaxy. Their representatives stood in the council chamber and demanded proof of Earth's strength. Some thought it was foolish, others secretly agreed. The humans had spoken boldly, but no one in living memory had seen their war power in action. The human leader didn't argue. He simply nodded once and said, "Very well." Within hours, the black battleship moved from its holding position at the edge of the capital system. It glided forward until it reached a position where both the Council and the Ralvec fleet could observe. The escorts stayed in tight formation, silent and steady. The Ralvec commander, a towering figure in silver armor, ordered his ships to keep their weapons locked on the humans, ready for any sudden move. The human vessel stopped beside a barren moon that orbited one of the system's outer planets. The surface of the moon was gray and lifeless, marked by deep craters and jagged cliffs. It had been abandoned for centuries and served no purpose other than as a distant rock in space. The humans sent no warning, no lengthy speech. Panels on the battleship's hull shifted, revealing a single massive weapon along its underside. It didn't glow with the blinding light of typical energy cannons. Instead, it hummed with a low, steady vibration that carried even through the void. The sound reached the Ralvec ship's comm systems, and their crews felt it in their bones. In the capital's observation decks, citizens gathered to watch. The image of the moon filled the screens. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a single beam of pale light lanced out from the battleship's weapon. It touched the moon's surface, and in less than 3 seconds, the rock cracked like glass under a hammer. A blinding flash erupted as the moon split in half, enormous chunks drifting apart in slow, silent motion. Smaller fragments spun away into space, scattering like sparks from a fire. Gasps echoed across the council chamber. The Ralvec commander's eyes widened, his mouth half open in disbelief. No weapon in the known galaxy could destroy a celestial body so quickly, and certainly not with such precision. The humans hadn't even destroyed the moon completely. They had split it cleanly, as if to show they could control the force down to the smallest detail. The battleship didn't move after the shot. The weapon folded back into the hull, vanishing without a trace. It was as if nothing had happened, except for the drifting halves of the moon now floating in the background. The human leader's voice came over the council's main channel. "We are not here to destroy your worlds, but know this. If we can split a moon in seconds, we can end any war you start before it reaches your people." His tone wasn't angry. It was calm, almost cold, like someone stating a fact rather than making a threat. In the streets of the capital, the footage spread instantly. People who had been unsure now spoke in hushed voices about the humans' power. Even those who hated the idea of human influence admitted privately that no one could match them in battle. Pirate bands, warlords, and aggressive factions watched the recording with clenched jaws, realizing what it meant for their future. Back in the chamber, the Ralvec commander lowered his head. It wasn't surrender, but it was an unspoken admission. There was no point in pushing further. The council leader Thalen looked around the room and saw the change in every representative's expression. Fear had turned to something else: understanding. The humans didn't press the advantage. They didn't demand tribute, land, or ships. They simply returned to their holding position in orbit, silent once again. That silence spoke louder than any boasting could. It said they had nothing to prove, no need to threaten. The demonstration had been enough. All across the galaxy, the image of the moon splitting became a symbol. Some saw it as a warning, others as protection. And in quiet conversations behind closed doors, leaders began to realize that the humans had just shifted the balance of power, not with a war, but with a single, precise shot. The signing took place in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, a place where few agreements ever lasted long. Yet this time, the atmosphere was different. Representatives from every major faction were present, seated in a great circle around a long, curved table. The humans stood at the far end, their leader calm and silent as the documents were brought forward. No one had forgotten the sight of the split moon. No one doubted that if the humans wished, they could enforce any demand. But instead of seizing control, they had come with a treaty. The agreement was simple but powerful. All borders between warring states were to be respected. All piracy was to end immediately. Wars that had lasted generations were to cease, and disputes would be settled through neutral courts overseen by the Council, now strengthened by human presence. Trade routes would be opened equally to all factions. It was not a request, it was a condition for peace. There were voices in the hall that tried to argue. A delegate from a long feuding system protested, saying their enemy would never honor such terms. The human leader turned to him, eyes steady, and replied, "Then we will make sure they do." It was not loud, but the meaning was crystal clear. There would be no second chances for those who broke the peace. When the treaty was signed, a wave of unease spread through the galaxy. Some feared that the humans were simply building a position of control for a future rule. Others believed they were sincere, that they had no interest in conquest, only in creating stability. Either way, no one dared challenge them. In the weeks that followed, the effects were immediate. Fleets that had been locked in battle for decades stood down. Long-range weapons went silent. Pirate havens, once thriving on lawlessness, emptied overnight as criminals fled to the far edges of the galaxy, hoping to hide from human eyes. In the mining colonies of the Outer Belt, workers noticed the difference first. For the first time in years, transports arrived without being raided. Supplies flowed in regularly, and merchants no longer charged triple the price out of fear. On frontier worlds, families who had lived under constant threat began to rebuild their towns. Children in the core worlds started learning a new name in their history lessons: Earth. Teachers spoke of the humans as both warriors and protectors. Stories spread of how they had appeared without warning, silenced wars without firing more than one shot, and left without taking a single world for themselves. For many, it was the first time peace had felt real. Not everyone was happy. In the dark corners of the galaxy, warlords and smugglers grumbled. Their power had come from chaos, and now chaos was dying. Some plotted revenge, whispering that the humans would eventually leave and the old ways could return. But their voices stayed low, because they all knew if the humans heard of their plans, they would not survive the response. Back in the capital, the humans did not linger. Once the treaty was in place, they met privately with the council for a single day. No one outside that chamber knew exactly what was said, but when the humans emerged, there were no arguments, no debates, only quiet understanding. They returned to their battleship, and within hours, it began to move again. This time, it was leaving. It glided out of the capital system the same way it had arrived: slow, deliberate, unchallenged. Crowds gathered on planetary balconies and station viewports to watch the black silhouette grow smaller against the stars. Some felt relief, others a strange emptiness, as if a great protector was turning away. Even after it vanished from sight, the stories remained. In marketplaces, miners' bars, royal courts, and hidden smuggler dens, people told and retold the events. They spoke of the moment the galaxy froze in fear, of the single beam that split a moon, of the humans who came not to take, but to change. Months later, the changes were still holding. Trade was thriving. The council was stronger than it had been in centuries. Border disputes that once drew blood now ended with signed papers. There were still tensions, still mistrust between some species, but the constant fear of war had faded into the background. And somewhere far beyond the mapped regions of the galaxy, Earth's battleships sailed on through the dark, silent as ever, leaving behind a galaxy that had learned one truth. It was not the size of the fleet, the power of the weapons, or the strength of the armies that brought order. It was the will to use them only when necessary. The humans had that will, and the galaxy would never forget it.